I think sometimes the right find it hard to understand that people could go and do a job, not for the money, but for the satisfaction it gives them. That does not compute. So they think they must have some other nefarious agenda for becoming a teacher. That's all I can put it down to. The reason vouchers have re-entered the discourse is because of Project 2025 and the education chapter in that gargantuan book. And it is basically recommending a voucher system. 13 US states, all of them already have a voucher system. So with Trump threatening to get rid of the Department of Education completely and therefore putting into place a voucher system, and basically the idea is you give that voucher to the parent and they then go out and give that voucher to whatever school they choose. The problem with most voucher systems is private schools will still charge fees on top of the voucher. And so they basically still get more money than the public school system does, combined from both parent and government. And also it doesn't take into account that children who come from disadvantaged backgrounds or have some form of disadvantage actually cost much more to educate than other children, particularly in a country like Australia, where we have a lot of remote and regional kids, and that can cost, what might cost $8,000 a year to educate a middle-class kid in a Sydney or Melbourne suburb could cost $30,000 a year to educate an Indigenous kid in the Northern Territory. And if you're just giving a voucher to parents and you're not saying, we'll give a $30,000 voucher, and they don't do that, you'll be surprised to hear, then the only thing that can happen is privileged kids get more privileges and less privileged kids get less privileges. Well, in Australia, what we do is we give a kind of per student amount to schools. So the difference between our ersatz voucher system and the one that is more classic Friedman-esque is that we give the voucher to the school. There's also differential funding in that disadvantaged public schools certainly get more funding than advantaged public schools in the public system. But, of course, private schools continue to charge fees, unregulated fees, uncapped fees. Many of the schools charging very high fees indeed are still getting millions of dollars in kind of vouchers, in government funding anyway. A very stark way of looking at that is that every public school in Australia, bar a handful in the ACT, is currently underfunded according to its agreed school resource standard. The school resource standard is an agreed amount that each school needs to adequately do its job. Not brilliantly, adequately. Well, public schools don't even get enough to do their job adequately. Every private school, on the other hand, bar a handful in the Northern Territory, is overfunded according to its school resource standard. Some are overfunded to as much as 200%. So you can see immediately how that inequality is getting baked in. For our poorest kids, this ersatz voucher system has been a disaster.